I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
I knew it. I love when he does that.
Wrestling has more than one royal family.
Adrenaline in my soul, something, Cody Rhodes. I'm the tribal chief around here. Yeah, you see me, the tribal chief. That's right.
Time. But let me go ahead and tell you.
Shut your bitch ass up.
Here we are again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 448 of the Hoots Podcast on this Friday, January 17, 2025. It's yours truly, the nefarious Brother Adam, a.k.a. Joshie Lopez, here in my lovely abode here in Chicago, Illinois. I made a promise to you guys that I was going to give you 2 episodes so we can keep on track on our current pathway towards episode 450, which will be taking place on January 31st, which is 2 weeks from today. Key thing I want to express today, best advice I could give to people who check out the podcast for the first time, or are frequent listeners and good brothers and good sisters who enjoy this podcast each and every single week, is to always stay true to your promises. I think that's one thing I can say that I'm very proud of myself, is that I'm a man of my word, and I stay true to my promise, and I stay committed to what I want to do for myself and the promises that I make to the people that I care about. And I made a promise to you guys that I would continue on with the show till episode 500, which I will. I made a promise to you guys this week that I would do 2 episodes, and here we are doing episode 448 right now. And a lot of other promises I make that I'm still going to make happen very, very soon. But I think that's something very important lesson I learned from my grandfather and my dad, is to be a man of your word and stay true to your promises. And, you got to live your life. So I just want to express some positive energy towards you guys as we continue on here. I'm still almost 100% back to normal, to my normal health. I was battling a bad cold this past week, and I'm starting again to feel back to in a normal state of mind. It's been very cold out here in Chicago. It's going to get even colder this weekend, so that should be interesting. I think some temperatures might get low to -5 degrees. Think about that. Isn't that a lot of fun? Knowing that this is like my last winter as a full-time resident in Chicago is something that I'm going to miss to a certain extent, but also I'm not going to miss it too. So, anyways, I'm Joshie. You can find me on Twitter if you like at the Hoots Podcast. I'm on Instagram at Joshie Lopez Music. If you want to support my work, please check out the results section of WrestlingHeadlines.com as I cover Raw, NXT, and SmackDown each and every single week, plus the PLEs and Saturday night's main event, which will be coming up a week from tomorrow in San Antonio, Texas. And it's crazy to think about it, guys. Like, I'm celebrating 11 years as doing these transcripts, doing these play-by-play articles, and Rumble/Mania season just brings back a lot of great memories of when I started doing this type of work, and I always get in like a little bit of a reflective mood as I think about it. Before we get to the wrestling talk this week, there's a couple things I want to mention. First and foremost, if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the like button and smash the subscribe button. That way you never miss an episode of the Hoots Podcast. And it helps yours truly. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and it would be really nice to get one of those cool YouTube playing plaques to celebrate this podcast and its achievements over the last 9 to 10 years. Anyways, we are, like I said, we are a couple episodes away from episode 450, which will be a big episode. That'll be our preview episode of the Royal Rumble and our predictions The Rumble of Royalty? No. So that we got that coming up. And best way to really support this podcast is to follow and stream the podcast each and every single week, at least the audio version on Spotify. It's free of charge. You don't have to pay a single cent to listen to this podcast. And I do really do appreciate the support. But before we get to this week in WWE and your questions for the Back Porch Q&A session, just wanted to spend a couple minutes here, kind of give you my thoughts on the whole stuff with the Chicago Bears coaching search. And I haven't really had a chance to talk a little bit about Chicago sports with you guys, unless it's related to a question I get in the Back Porch Q&A session. So just figured I wanted to get some stuff off my chest regarding that. Look, being from Chicago, you're kind of already ordained to be a glutton for punishment, a glutton for disappointment when it comes to being a Chicago sports fan. The Bulls have not won a championship since I was 4 years old. The Bears have not won a title since my dad was 11 years old. The Cubs, they recently broke a 100-plus year streak drought of winning the World Series. The White Sox last won a championship in 2005, so that's 20 years ago. And the Hawks are probably the last team in the city that's had recent sustainable success. So championships are very few and far between in this city. It's kind of sad to say that's the truth with the fact how big this market is. But so many years we've let bad ownership get in the way of what this city's potential could be from a revenue point of view, with the fact that our teams almost always annually suck and always disappoint us on every single level. To tell you that I'm a frustrated Chicago sports fan would be an understatement. I don't have the same passion for sports as I used to as a kid. Anybody that knows me personally, especially with my family, my friends that I grew up with, knew how much I love sports and how obsessed I was with sports. Not even just playing it as a kid, but playing the video games, following along with ESPN and watching podcasts and stuff like that. Now, to a certain extent, I still follow along with the Bears because the Bears are my favorite team in the city besides the Bulls. So I'm still a big NFL fan, so I watch podcasts like Hogan Johns or CHGO. Sometimes I'll dabble on with Dan Reeder and Mark Rohde for Take the North podcast, which they do on The Score here in Chicago, the CBS sports station here. But all in all, I've said this every single time anybody's ever asked me about the Chicago Bears, whether it's trying to get a new head coach, developing a franchise quarterback. Not the Bears, not the city, not the fans across the globe would know what a good coach would look like or how quarterback development looks like if it slapped them in the face. What could go wrong, let's say it again, will go wrong. I can't be more clear than that. We all have theories. Sometimes bare discourse on social media is almost equivalent to professional wrestling fans, in that there's so many hot takes and just jargon about what's supposed to happen and how it's supposed to happen this way, and everybody thinks they have the answers, but really the team itself, the city itself, the media especially, wouldn't know what a good head coach would look like or quarterback development would look like if it slapped them in the face. So, yeah, I'm disappointed that we didn't get Mike Vrabel. Mike McCarthy's out there as an option. I wouldn't mind that. Ben Johnson, then we have to wait a couple more weeks depending on how long the Lions are going to be in the playoffs. The NFL has put these new rules to slow the process of hiring coaches, even though they let the Patriots cheat the Rooney Rule, which is not surprising to me because the NFL lets Robert Kraft do whatever the hell he wants. But at the end of the day, I know whoever the Bears are going to hire, I'm not going to say it's going to be an automatic failure or anything like that. But whoever the Bears hire, I know the snarky radio hosts like Waddle and Sylvie and ESPN 1000 and The Score are just going to poo-poo on it. And they're going to make you feel like shit for hiring. They're going to make the fans feel indifferent towards the hire and tell you why the coach will not make it to Arlington Heights and that we're going to have to do another rebuild in a couple of years. And we're going to repeat this cycle on and on and on and on again with any lack of hope of optimism left. Do I think the Chicago Bears and McCaskey should sell the team? Yes. Do I think things would be better for the franchise if the McCaskey sold the team? Absolutely. I would love Brian Flores here. I would love Ben Johnson here. Hell, I wouldn't even mind Pete Carroll doing his last stint as a coach here. I wouldn't mind Todd Monken being a Bears coach. But it's really a shame to the fact that whoever the Bears hire, it's just going to be met with, oh, they could have done better, they could have done this, they could have done that. Got to hear Mark Silverman cry and bitch for another football season as I've been doing my entire life as a sports radio fan. It just never stops. So really at the end of the day, all we have to do is pray to the football gods that we finally get this right and we can get this football team back on track. But besides that, this city, the fan base, the Bears itself, and the media wouldn't know what a good head coach looks like if it slapped them in the face, and the same thing applies to quarterback development. And that's all I have to say in regards to the Bears coaching search. On that note, when we come back, we'll get to what happened this week in WWE right here on episode 448 of the Hoots Podcast. We'll be right back. Yeet. All right, guys, welcome back to the Hoots Podcast. Time to talk about what happened this week in WWE. We're going to take a step back to SmackDown first for this past week. SmackDown was in, just give me a second as I go back to my research here. SmackDown this past Friday night was in Portland, Oregon. Show kicked off with Paul Heyman, Cody Rhodes, and Kevin Owens. Paul Heyman coming out to express to the audience that his tribal chief, the OTC, Roman Reigns, is declared for the Royal Rumble. But first he wanted to let that news come out to Cody Rhodes, and this is what he said here. And so that there's no surprises, Roman Reigns wants you to know how he's going to get the title back. This is not a prediction, this is a spoiler. Roman Reigns hereby declares he's entering the 2025 Men's Royal Rumble with full intentions of winning and going on to WrestleMania to fight you once again for the championship. So respectfully, with that in mind, Cody Rhodes, what do you want to talk about? Before Cody can say anything, here's what Kevin Owens had to say. He said, you know what I want to talk about? I like to talk about how just when I thought you couldn't get worse, Cody, just when I thought it couldn't get worse than you teaming with Roman Reigns at Bad Blood, and it actually does get worse because Monday night on Raw, you go out to shake hands with The Rock. Why? Because he kissed your ass and rubbed your ego the right way? And now you shake hands with Paul Heyman, and what happens? 30 seconds after you shake hands, he looks you in the eyes and says that Roman Reigns wants his title back. And you know what, Cody? That's your fault. You did that to yourself because you should have left the bloodline to rip Roman Reigns to shreds. But instead, you chose to help him, and now look what happens. Forget betraying my friendship. You let Roman Reigns get that title back. You're hurting the entire company. That led to Cody and That led to Cody and Kevin start brawling in the crowd. Cody's mentioned the whole stuff about being on site. They have their ladder match coming up for the Undisputed WWE Championship. I mean, it's not really that surprising that Roman Reigns is going to enter the Royal Rumble match and dangle this carrot that will get the trilogy for probably the first time ever to have the same main event for the past 3 consecutive WrestleManias to happen. Am I opposed to the idea of having Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes Part 3? No, I'm not. It would make a lot of sense. I kind of like how a lot of these things are overlapping on both shows where, at the end of the day, and I think it was Drew McIntyre who said this on Raw, but it's like Roman Reigns is playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. And it's kind of true. It's very interesting. Cody's distracted by Kevin. We got the CM Punk factor. Seth Rollins has his issues with Roman Reigns. We got Sami Zayn, Solo. The list goes on, and it all goes back to Roman Reigns and his ego power trip. Even though he's the good guy now, I'm kind of curious to see how all this is going to play out. I think we are in for a really stacked Royal Rumble show, honestly. Chelsea Green defeated Michin in a rematch for their Saturday night's main event Women's United States Championship match, which I thought was pretty decent. Couple long tag matches that happened on SmackDown. Los Garza defeated Pretty Deadly. Shinsuke Nakamura had a successful title defense against LA Knight this past week, thanks to Attack from the Bloodline and Jacob Fatu. LA Knight won via disqualification, but Nakamura was the retainer. Best match for me for SmackDown this past Friday was the Motor City Machine Guns at 8-Time Down Under. Fantastic match. The Machine Guns won the match. Machine Guns are fighting Los Garza tonight, and the winner of that match will be taking on DIY for the tag titles as their number 1 contenders. From there, we had a fatal 4-way match to determine the number 1 contender for tonight, which saw Bayley beat Bianca Belair, Naomi, and Nia Jax. So Bayley will be going on to SmackDown tonight to fight Tiffany Stratton for the Women's Championship. Carmelo Hayes tried to punk out Jimmy Uso. That did not go well for him at all. Jimmy's talking about how Melo's just laying bricks all the time now. Cody Rhodes and aforementioned Jimmy Uso took on the Bloodline. The Bloodline defeated Cody and Jimmy thanks to help from Kevin Owens. Cody and Kevin went through 2 tables by the production table area as the show went off the air. So, all in all, I thought SmackDown was pretty decent for Portland. Some really good matches. This little adjustment period for me doing this show for 3 hours now. Like, I've been excited for it. So, you're getting a lot of opportunities for these other talents in the roster who don't get as much TV time. So, that's been nice to see. And we've been getting longer matches on TV. So, it's been fun. I thought SmackDown served its purpose this week, and I thought it did a good job. From there, we go to Monday Night Raw here. Raw was in San Jose, California. SAP Center brings back some good memories. Always said the SAP Center, the Shark Tank in San Jose is one of my favorite venues that I've been able to attend for wrestling shows. This is crazy. This is going to be the 10-year anniversary for the first WrestleMania. I got to cover in San Jose for that WrestleMania 31, which is kind of crazy. It's back in the West Coast. It's going to be in Vegas this year. I don't know if I'll be able to get to cover the show this year in Vegas, but that would have been a lot. That would have been a lot of fun to do so. But, anyways, the Shark Tank for WrestleMania. My bad. Shark Tank was for Raw this past Monday, the second week on Netflix. Kicked off the show with Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and Drew McIntyre. They're all making their declarations for the Royal Rumble. It makes sense that all 3 of these guys are in there and they're going to beat the crap out of each other. And Punk and they all still have so much hate towards each other. Like Punk was like, Drew, if you take another step, it's going to take more than 15 staples to close your head. I thought that was a good line. Seth Rollins will be taking out Drew McIntyre this coming Monday on Raw. So that was pretty cool way to kick off the show. I mentioned the stuff earlier with Drew saying about, everybody's attention's in the wrong place when the focus should be on taking out Roman Reigns. So I think this whole thing with Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens and Drew McIntyre could be a thing. I really do. But we have to see how that plays out. Chad Gable had a match with the debut of Pentagon. Penta made his WWE debut this past Monday, and I thought it was fantastic. I thought they hit it out of the park. The presentation was fantastic. It was great to see his family in the front row. I thought the music was pretty good. The entrance, the way it looked, it was dope. So I think Penta is a big get for WWE, and it's good for him to lead the sloppy shop in Duval County. So I'm very happy for Pentagon, and can't wait for Phoenix to show up too. I don't know about you guys, but a little different of vibe from Liv Morgan and Danny Dom on Raw this past Monday. Try to give her a bouquet of roses. Liv's like, you don't need to apologize. Yeah, these two are going to Splitsville soon. Yeah, that's definitely happening. Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser, fantastic match as always between these two. Nice to see Sheamus beat Ludwig Kaiser. Sheamus will be fighting Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship at Saturday night's main event. So that's going to be pretty cool in San Antonio. Here's one of the things that really popped out to me from Raw this week was the backstage with Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn, where I talk about this whole alliance with Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens. Sami Zayn has a tie with all three guys there. And I want to throw this out here on the podcast this week. I don't know if anybody else is saying this on their podcast, so if they have, I give credit where credit's due on their end. But for me, I don't know about you guys, but it seems kind of obvious that Seth and Sami are on a collision course at WrestleMania. I think something's going to happen where Sami causes Seth the Rumble or something like that. I think these two are going to fight each other at WrestleMania. I really do. I know a lot of people say that we're going to get a rematch with Punk and Rollins, but I really do think that Sami is going to cost Seth Rollins the Royal Rumble, and they're going to fight each other at WrestleMania. I really do. Gunther and Jey Uso segment, I thought was pretty good. They made the match official for Saturday night's main event. These guys have fought each other before. It'll be a fun match. I like the dynamic with Gunther and Jey Uso. Yeah, it's kind of thrown together, but with the fact that the WWE titles are already being defended at the Rumble, I guess you don't need a World Heavyweight Championship match on that show as well. So I'm fine with this. Gunther and Jey Uso, like I said, they have good chemistry. I enjoyed covering their matches over the past year. So, yeah, it can be predictable in a way, but I think it's good. It's going to be a good match. I really do. Speaking of good matches, shout out to Dakota Kai and Lion Valkyria, and congratulations to Lion Valkyria for becoming the inaugural WWE Women's Intercontinental Champion. Fantastic match for both of these ladies. I thought they killed it. Sami Zayn defeating The Miz. Very good match. The Rhea Ripley, Nia Jackson, Bayley stuff was kind of a miss for me. Kind of a shoulder shrug. And then the main event with Damian Priest and Finn Balor, which I thought was pretty dope. A fantastic match. I don't know if that's the end of their feud. But if that was the send-off for that feud, then so be it. But I thought it was pretty dope, and it was a fantastic match. So either this is the end between him and Priest, or this is something where this is where Balor starts turning on the Judgment Day. So, or who knows? Maybe Balor gets the boot for the Judgment Day. Who knows? But we'll have to see how that plays out. But all in all, I thought Raw and SmackDown was pretty good this week from top to bottom. And that's my thoughts in WWE this week. When we come back, we'll get to your questions for this week's edition of the Back Porch Q&A session right here on the Hoots Podcast. We'll be right back. All right, guys, one more segment to do here on the podcast at Hoots. This week, it's time to answer your questions for this week's edition of the Back Porch Q&A session. Let's do this, ladies and gentlemen. Throw out the X for the good brother Chris Zaletta at XZaletta24X at the Twitter machine. Let's see what Chris has for us this week. And here we go. All right. What up, Oos? Here's some questions for the Q&A this week. Thoughts on SmackDown, rumored to be going to 2 hours eventually. I hope not, selfishly. I appreciate the money that will be coming in for doing these 3-hour SmackDowns, so I'm going to have a hard pass for that one. But I wouldn't be surprised either. We'll have to see how that goes. Best match for New Year's Evil. I think either Roxanne Perez and Julia or the triple threat with Oba, Trick, and Eddie was pretty good too. Thoughts on Nikki Bella back around, and do you think we'll ever see her in the ring again? I would love to see her back in the ring again. I'll say this again about Nikki Bella. I am obviously biased. I think she's probably the sexiest female wrestler I've ever seen in my entire life. But besides that, I also think Nikki Bella is one of the more courageous people I've ever seen in wrestling, and to share her story in her book that I read before, and also kind of knowing about what happened recently with her divorce and everything, and what she had to overcome and everything. Like, I admire Nikki Bella as a person a lot, and I hope that she's happy. And you can see that in her face when she was at Raw a couple weeks ago. And I would love to see her in the ring again. I really would. And Brie too. That'd be pretty cool. Do we know if Corey Graves is back on NXT commentary full time? I don't know. I really don't. Honestly, Chris, I don't want to say I have no comment on the situation because, I have sympathy. I understand his frustration of why, he's put the grinding work and hours to doing commentary and fly to different countries for these PLEs and stuff like that, and to go back and forth on multiple brands because we always have to go through the Pat McAfee schedule. It could be frustrating for him. I don't know what the situation is. I don't know if this is some work for him to line up for a match with him and Pat at WrestleMania, which I think would be cool. I have no idea, but I hope he figures it out for himself. Or maybe that's just something for him where it's just not for him, where he wants to leave WWE. I don't know. It's a tricky situation, but I wish him nothing for the best. And I was actually excited for him to see what he was going to do on NXT. So, I don't know. We'll have to see where that plays out. What do you think The Rock is up to? What is the next domino to fall here? I'm sure sooner or later we'll get another hit of where The Rock's head's at. I think first and foremost, before The Rock can go do his stuff with Cody Rhodes, I think this stuff with him and Roman Reigns needs to be addressed first. So that's really where my head's at. I don't know if The Rock is going to wrestle at WrestleMania this year or not, but I think a lot of people are just jumping the gun and they ruined the whole storyline with The Rock and Cody and Roman, and The Rock just shit at all the hardcore fans on the Netflix premiere show. The Rock is a long gamer, and The Rock has everybody, especially the sensitive, paranoid marks. He got those fans on the palm of his hand. So I'm not really worried about The Rock. We'll just have to wait and see what the next domino is going to be. That's all I'll say about it. Your thoughts on the Chris Charlton situation? My thoughts are this, Chris. Honestly, I'm not surprised. And it's just another example of how sensitive and inept Tony Khan is at his job. And that's all I have to say about it. Sorry that the truth hurts. It is what it is. AEW has made New Japan look like their bitch. and it's ridiculous, and it's a goddamn shame, honestly, to be honest with you. This partnership with New Japan and AEW has been a complete and utter flop, and nobody else can debate me on it. It's been an unmitigated disaster. That's how bad it is. Thoughts on the official TNA WWE partnership agreed upon for the next few years? I think it's great. I think it's dope. See, it's a difference from WWE, who's running a business to make money, and AEW running business just to get Wrestling Observer Newsletter awards. It's two different businesses. TNA and WWE's been beneficial partnership over the last couple of years, and I think it's great for both ends. I really do. What happens in Pittsburgh with Tomlin and the Steelers? Probably more mediocrity. From the sounds of it, from his press conference, he said that he's not going to entertain any trade calls since he has a no trade clause, and he can make the decision when he's ready to go. But Steelers are going to be stuck in mediocrity until they get an actual quarterback that's sustainable, and that's my thoughts on that. What do you think of Bacha appearing at NXT scouting? Do you think we see her and Cora mix it up? I think it's cool, and yes, I think her and Cora will have a match for sure. I can see that happening. Has MJF's stock gone down since he signed that extension? Chris, what do you think my answer to that question is going to be? That segment with him and Jeff Jarrett this week is probably one of the most embarrassing segments I've seen on wrestling TV in a long time. First and foremost, I would think that Alicia, too, would have more respect for herself to allow her boyfriend, or whatever the fuck he is, her fiance, to let another man talk about her in that manner on worldwide television. But, you know, looking at her track record or who she's used to date, I'm not really surprised at this point. But, yeah. All this stuff for a match that nobody's going to give two shits about 2 months from now. It's just embarrassing. Am I on pins and needles to see MJF and Jeff Jarrett on my TV screen? No. MJF's stock has gone horribly down, and it's a goddamn shame, honestly. It really is. Your thoughts on Aleister Black's possible return to WWE, and what do you think his role will be? I think Aleister Black could do some damage on SmackDown. I think you could bring the World Heavyweight title to... excuse me. You could bring the World title from Raw to SmackDown and bring the WWE title back to Raw. I think Aleister Black could do some damage. Him and Gunther can have longer matches. Same thing with Andrade, Shinsuke, Austin Theory. I think Aleister Black would do a lot of good stuff on SmackDown, honestly. And I hope he does return. I really do. I feel like a broken record here, but again, another drop ball by AEW. So I wouldn't be surprised if Aleister comes back with WWE. Thoughts on Wildcard Weekend last week? I thought the game sucked. Happy that Houston upstated the Chargers. I think Jim Harbaugh is a highly overrated coach. So I was happy to see the Texans win. The Bucks-Commanders game was alright, but again, I'm not a fan of Mike Tirico and Chris Cosworth as a booth. So that I just thought it was a very, very boring weekend, honestly, and I hope that we have better games this weekend, but I don't know. It seems like a propaganda machine to have the Chiefs again in the AFC Championship game. So I'm wishing and praying that the Texans can beat the Chiefs tomorrow, but I'm not getting my hopes up. So we'll have to see how that plays out on that end. Let's say a few years from now, for an opportunity for Cody to turn heel is there. He gets a faction. Who would he put in? It could be anybody from NXT, currently in TNA, and currently in AEW. Gosh. Oh man, I don't know. That's a tough question there. Okay. I'm going to say Cody Rhodes, Ricky Starks, Wardlow, Jay Cargill, tag teams. That's really hard. Maybe Creed Brothers. I don't know. Maybe I don't see it. I don't know. It'd probably have to be like. I guess you could put FTR in that faction. I guess with Cody, maybe. But yeah, you're stumping me with the tag team aspect. But if I had a heel faction, it'd probably be Cody, Ricky Starks, Jay Cargill, Wardlow, and FTR, or who knows. Maybe, I guess you could do Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards if you want to do that as a tag team. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how that plays out. But all in all, I want to thank Chris for the great questions this week. As always, good brother. I appreciate it. And as always, make sure to follow Chris on Twitter at XTeamZaletta24X on the Twitter machine. And as always, you can follow me at Twitter at the Hoots Podcast. And hit me up on Instagram at Joshie Lopez Music. On that note, we're going to put a ribbon on the bow in this week's edition of the Hoots Podcast. Make sure to hit the like button and smash the subscribe button on YouTube. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. And don't forget, the best way to support this podcast is to follow and stream the podcast on Spotify. That's the best way to do it. It's the best way that I recommend it for everybody. Please follow the podcast on Spotify. I really appreciate the support. And you can also check out my work at WrestlingHeadlines.com in the results section to see my play-by-play transcripts, just like I'll be doing tonight for Friday Night SmackDown. But on that note, I'm Joshie. This has been episode 448 of the Hoots Podcast. Remember, folks, be the authentic product that is yourself. And remember, nobody dictates the pace of life but yourself and the man upstairs. Enjoy the divisional round of the playoffs. We'll be here next week for another edition of the Hoots Podcast. We're 2 episodes away from episode 450 of the Hoots Podcast. The final chapter is right around the corner, and I'm very excited for it. So have a wonderful weekend, everybody. I love y'all. We'll talk to y'all next week. Yeet.
Bye-bye, bitch.